I'm on my bed and they're playing this DVD, but they all looked very normal. You know, like watching, let's say, Lion King, and you're really, like you're normal, right? Those images just stuck in my head. That even when we went for dinner, in my head, even forget about the food, I was just seeing those images. And then I began, when we went for shower, I would meet these boys, my peers, engaging in masturbation. And the thing about porn is that it gets to a point where what you watched yesterday can no longer work for you tomorrow.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Divine Clinic. I'm your host Sophia. I'm so happy to have you back again. Like last time, I really have an interesting person with a very interesting story that I know is going to minister to your life. I want to first take some time and thank each and every one of you who has able to tune in, subscribe, share, comment, do whatever you did to make sure our community grows. We have really grown and I love to see that. And I also want to thank the ones that have gone in the comment section and tried to advise me on how to host, how to be better. I mean, I do need it because this is really my first time. I did not know I'll be hosting somebody very soon. A few episodes in, I was led to bring in a person. I did not know how to host. I don't know how to host, but I appreciate the ones who told me how to do it better, how the kind words that you said. It was really my first time. There are a lot of things I don't know. I'm learning on the job. So I pray that you will be graceful with me. You will walk with me as we grow, as we heal on this channel, as we walk this journey together. None of us is perfect. You are not perfect who's watching. You do need help. I do need help in one area or another. So let us walk this journey together. Let us be kind to one another. Let us teach ourselves how to grow in the Lord because no one has it. No one is perfect. So I really appreciate the comments that have been so kind to me. I really take them into consideration. I'm working on myself to be better, to be a better host, to know when to speak to someone and do all that stuff. I hear you and I appreciate you so much. So the guest I have for you today, his name is Moses. He's a very good friend of mine. I have served with him. He's one of the gentlemen here in Boston who inspire me a lot with the zeal they have for the Lord, how much they have stood in very difficult places. He's an evangelist, so he preaches the gospel on the streets of Boston. And one of the craziest things that he does that I feel like I don't know if I would even do that. I don't know if I have the grace for that. I've seen him preach the gospel at a gay parade, which was like, I was like, that is too bold. That is like, I don't know if I'm bold enough to do that, but that's one of the things that inspire me about him. The zeal he has for God, the love he has for God, the way he has walked with the Lord, the things he has walked away from. So allow me introduce to you my friend Moses. You are very welcome to the Divine Clinic.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor and a very big privilege for me to be here. I've been watching your program, not every time, but I've watched a couple episodes and I must say I've been really blessed. And I want to thank you because you began from where you were alone on the program and your testimony was really very strong. And I hope and pray that people can, get back to the very first episodes and watch those as well. And finally I've made it here. And I want to thank you for giving me this chance and an opportunity to be here on the program.
Thank you so much for, allowing to come. Did you expect to be here this soon?
No, because you have so many amazing people to talk to. So I was really honored when you told me to be coming today as your friend, but also as someone who really has been blessed by your ministry, your altar. So it gives me a very big privilege to know that I'm also contributing to what the Lord is doing on the Divine Clinic.
Yeah, you definitely bless our lives, and I'm not surprised that you're here because I've had a little bit about your testimony and the few things I've even shared it with people because it was an amazing testimony. Thank you for being bold. These are things we don't want to talk about. I don't know how comfortable you are or if you've struggled with sharing your testimony because that it takes some boldness to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it does take boldness, but, when you look at men like Apostle Paul, men that say they count everything a loss. Apostle Paul was a man that must have been trained as a lawyer, so highly educated. And then here he is putting everything that he had aside for the sake of the kingdom. So I tell myself, what have I put aside for the sake of the kingdom? And things like a testimony, like my testimony, you realize these are the things that people are struggling with. These are the things that peers and friends and colleagues, when you share with them, they say, oh, I was struggling with the same thing as you did. But if nobody is going to come out and, for example, share, some people are going to stay hiding, and they are still doing the same thing. So I find positivity in sharing some of these testimonies. It's not easy, as you say, because some people say, oh, people are going to look at you in a different way if you say, I used to sleep around, I used to do this, I used to do that. So some things can be very sensitive. But I tell myself, I have nothing to lose anymore. That life is over. You've left that life behind. In as much as you regret it, but by sharing, you are encouraging other people that it's possible for you to come out, and still be meaningful to the kingdom.
Right. I know that's the motive is really good, because sometimes you have to die to self and share what the Lord wants you to share with people. Like you said, one of the things that we strive to do here at the Divine Clinic is to heal the people who are ready for the Lord, like to let them know that, hey, listen, what you're going through, you're not by yourself. You can go through it, but by the grace of God, you can come out and still be a very strong servant of God. So thank you so much for accepting to come here and share your testimony. Before you tell us the things you struggled with that God had to help you, I want you to first give us a background, like how did your journey, how was your journey growing up? Were you with God? Were you in the church? Like, let us know how your journey was before you got to that moment where you started struggling with some of the things you're going to share.
Yeah, I grew up with a single mom, and she was a very God-fearing. She is a God-fearing woman. I remember right from young, I think from the age of 8 or 9 that I can remember, where she used to literally take us to church. We would go with her and, in those taxis. So we grew up in the church, I must say that. And for most of my young life, I remember I was at Rubaga Miracle Center. So I'm a Rubaga Miracle Center kid. So I spent some good time there. And we also had some stints at Kansanga Miracle Center. We used to go to a few other churches, but my home church really was Rubaga Miracle Center, and has always been Rubaga Miracle Center, even though now we moved on, and now we're in America. So I cannot say I didn't have a memory of not being in church. I must say my upbringing was one in a very strong Christian family. Yeah.
So you guys, okay, you were in church. How was your personal life with God? Because there is growing up in church, but you're not there. You have no relationship with God. How was that? You growing up before you actually became, like you say, like born again. How was your relationship with God? Your personal relationship with God.
Yeah, as we say, it's the right thing as you say that, because it is one thing to go to church every Sunday, but another to have a personal relationship with God, like to have that personal understanding. For me, that I think came when I was at university. That's when I really began to see myself as a born again or as a Christian. This is how I must start to live my life. But all through high school, I even used to laugh at kids who are in the scripture union. We used to make fun of them. I had a friend of mine, she was a Tanzanian, she's called Lightness. She was our scripture union leader. And we used to make fun of her, like, why are you wasting your life? Why are you wasting your time? We are young. I mean, there's so much to enjoy. So I never really thought of myself as someone who will become so serious, even though I knew I grew up in a strong Christian background and a family. But I was not so much concerned with ministry as a young boy or as a young adult. It was until I got to university that I really began to get serious in my walk with Christ.
So could you go ahead and tell us about your first encounter with God? Like, what made you say, I'm going to start getting serious with God?
Yeah, I think my very first time to have a real encounter with God was at Uganda Christian University. I love UCU. I chose UCU mainly because I don't know why I was so weird in my head. I told myself, I want to go to UCU because I want to get a Christian wife.
Right.
It wasn't even about the degree itself. My mom wanted me to go to Makerere. I even went to Makerere, but the Makerere gave me a position, but my mom wanted me to do law. I said, I don't want to do law. I want to do mass communication. And for some reason, Makerere wouldn't give me mass communication. But remember, my choice was UCU.
Right.
So I said, no, I'm going. My mom was like, but, she didn't even have an idea about UCU because it was still not yet popular as it is today. So I remember the first time I went there, it wasn't as so nice, but in my spirit, I really loved it because I felt this is a Christian university and this is going to be everything. And for me, it was everything because I tell you, despite all that I'm going to share, that was me as Moses.
Right.
For me, UCU still ranks as number one. I know people are going to complain, Makerere and all this. For me personally, UCU is the number one university in Africa.
Right.
Because what I saw then, the level of discipline, the way we would pray, 3 times every week, we'll be in the chapel. I remember in my time, we had the chancellor of Uganda, of the Anglican Church as our, no, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church, who was Henry Rukorombi, Right Reverend Henry Rukorombi. He was our chancellor. So prayer, I was like, there is nothing better than this. And in terms of education, even the dress code we had then, you wouldn't put on anything above your knees as a girl.
Wow.
They would stop you at the gate. So you wouldn't enter. Even these like leggings, you can't come into the school with the leggings. So for me, that was something I really, 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 really loved. And even today, I know UCU still is the number one university in Africa. So, but now for me as Moses, definitely I get to UCU. It's my first time to be away from my mom. It's my first time to be away from my mom's house. And here you are, with new people, strangers, they've grown up from different schools. And I think this is where the challenge comes, that as parents, you have the thinking that if I take my kid to a Christian university, everything is going to be well, But then the kids get there and they will make wrong friends. And I think that was me. When I got to and I think I can't even be blamed per se, because you don't have even a choice on who you're going to be paired with. Because when you go to UCU, the first year you have to stay inside. And then after the first year, I think then they give you the liberty to go and reside from out. So when you're inside, they'll pair you with the students. I think we used to be 3.
Like a roommate.
Yeah, 3 or 4 in your cubicle. And remember, this is not my first time to be away from my mom's house. And here you are, my mom has bought me a small TV, a small DVD player, my son, I remember I even cried when I was separating from my mom. I had that anxiety of, I'm going to be away from my mom. And she also cried, I remember, though she was trying to make it look like she's strong. Because when we were there, we had kids like from Bweranyanji, single-sex schools. You had kids from, let's say Ntare. You had kids from Bwiri, Butiki, all those very strong traditional schools. And you had kids like girls who had never been close to any boy because they grew up in a single-sex school. And this is their first encounter to see boys. You had boys who had been predominantly with boys alone, and then this is their first encounter with girls. And so you can imagine what happens. But the only good thing about UC is that the first year you are put in the hall of residence, which is inside, and then you're separated. So
inside
the boys,
the university.
Yes, the boys are going to be alone and the girls are going to be alone. And then they'll put you in cubicles. You can't choose who you're going to be with in the cubicles. They'll just say, okay, Moses, you find like 4 other names. This is your cubicle. This is your cubicle. So for me, it was in the cubicles where I really made some, I would say, amazing friends after orientation and, all those kind of things. So your expectation is I am entering into a seminary and, I'm not a seminary per se, but you're entering into a place that you are going to have, I don't want to say encounters with God,
but a relationship with God, maybe.
A strong one. So you get into the halls of residence. Of course, day one, no one can do that, because you're all trying to settle and understand each other. And I think it was after like day 2, day 3, day 4, when I think it was one evening when I was coming from class, and I meet these guys watching pornography, and it was my TV. So my mom had given me a TV and a DVD player, and I find them watching porn on my TV. The first instant was, why are you watching that on my TV? Like that, it again in my head. I remember I walked out of the room, and then they dragged the guy, one of the colleagues was walking in and said, come back, come inside, like dragged me inside. In my head, first of all, I was shocked that These guys had even the audacity to watch it on my TV, like on my own television, and I had no control even on what to do with it. So I remember when I got back into the room, because my bed was the middle one, so there was a kid down here, and I was in the middle, then this one on top, and like two deckers in the room. So, when you get to the room, there are no chairs, so you just have to get into your bed, and the TV is there. I remember I'm on my bed, and they are playing this DVD. It's normally I don't know even where they kept them, because they had a stash of those DVDs. I later realized, and I was first of all shocked, and the second thing I felt was, how could this been happening inside the universe? Like we are all Christian. Why are we doing this? Yeah,
right.
But they all looked very normal. That's what really was so scary about the first of all thing, that they, like watching, let's say, Lion King. And you're
right.
really, like you're normal, right? Now for me, I'm terrified. I'm like, wait, this is a hardcore porn. Like, forget about like watching maybe a romantic movie. This is hardcore porn.
How could you recognize that it is hardcore porn? Did you know had you heard about porn before?
No, I didn't. This is the thing, because what I saw was someone naked and they're having sex.
And it's like, just right there.
Like you can clearly see. It's not like, maybe they're undressing. It was just so graphic. I remember I was so scared. First of all, I got into my bed up in the middle, but you couldn't even like pretend that, because the sound was on, the DVD is on, you can hear everything, you can see it. At first, of course, I began to peep, to see what to see what is happening. Right. But you don't want to see it, but then again, you want to see it because
you're curious.
You watch the first thing, and now it kind of keeps you glued. And I don't know, I think that's the spirit behind porn, that once you watch, you want to keep watching. You want to keep until finishing it. So I watched a few seconds. I put my eyes away. Then I had to keep turning back. So I think I must have watched like 40% of it. And so eventually they turned off, and I think we went for dinner. Those images just stuck in my head.
Right.
Like they just stuck in my head. The few minutes we had watched, that even when we went for dinner, in my head, even forget about the food, I was just seeing those images of that man and the woman engaging in that sexual encounter. So after dinner, now imagine, now we come back in the halls of residence, they turn on this thing again.
My God.
They continue from where we were watching. And now at that time, I'm no longer saying no. Like there's a way my spirit had now got captured, I would say, into sitting down and paying attention and trying to, me who should be saying, oh guys, let's do this, you get. So here I was, this young believer, young Christian. I have fallen into this interesting young men, my same age mates. I mean, I think we're around 19 years of age. And it's just that they were having from a different background. I couldn't understand that. I remember even I went to bed that night, the images were just so stuck into my head. And then I began, when we went for shower, I would meet these boys, my peers, and then you'd see them engaging in masturbation. Like, this is normal, this is okay, you're not just alone, all of us are doing it. So there's a way it gives you that comfort when you see 4 of your colleagues are doing something. It gives that kind, and again, this for me, I'm not justifying it. Again, as I'm going to be sharing later on, this is wrong. This is very, very wrong. And even as a Christian, I'm going to give you examples of how the Lord helped me overcome it.
Thank you so much for saying that, because most of us, we become defensive, like, the environment was so bad, there's no way I could have survived it. But thank you for saying that even as a Christian, even though you are surrounded by such acts, you can choose to do better. So thank you for saying that.
So now that I had seen the first images, it can you imagine what would happen now? Now me, the real owner of the TV, now I also got the courage to get some of the DVDs of those boys and watch. That is how sad I look at it now, because the first time I was shocked. You are so terrified. Like, what is this? But now your brain becomes accustomed. Like your peers begin to mock you and say, come on, don't pretend like you are the holiest kid in the whole universe.
We're all doing it.
All of us are doing it. And you know what will happen? They'll tell you, let's go to the other room and cubicle, and you see. You'll find the kids are doing the same thing in that cubicle. I'm like, wow, okay. So maybe I'm just being abnormal. Like
Right.
you begin to feel like you who's doing the right thing, you are being abnormal. And I think that is how I silently and slowly began to lose it into getting accustomed to that. I remember the first time my mom came to see me, I felt so sad. And I told her, Mom, I think take this TV away. I didn't explain to her what was going on, but she didn't understand it. She's like, Moses, no, I think you're going to get used to life away from me. You know, these things happen. You have maybe anxiety to separate from me. And I'm like, no, I couldn't tell her what was going on. But I was feeling like this thing is eating me up. You know, this thing is really eating me up. And I remember by the end of first year, I had become so comfortable with it. Like I was comfortable with masturbation, with pornography, and of course with the fornication as well, you know, because and the challenge about masturbation, and this is what I want us to really understand, that masturbation has a very big impact on you as a person. First and foremost, I'm going to talk about both the girls and the boys. I've shared with the girls. Girls have told me their challenges, but I'll deal with the boys. You see, when you engage in masturbation with your hands, right? You're using your hands, and your hands are very rough and hard. Now, even when you get a girl, because the girl is different, the inside of the girl is smooth. Now, if your brain is so accustomed to this hand which is rough, even if you sleep with this girl for 10 hours, in your head,
my God,
it can't take away what you've been used to, because your hand is rough, and so your manhood is used to that thing. The same is with a girl. If a girl is used to a sex toy, this sex toy that can run for 2 hours and it is strong and doesn't break, even if she gets a man and she's married, no man can compete with a sex toy. I guarantee you. Let no one lie to you that you're going to find a man who will satisfy you the way the sex toy is going to satisfy you. So that's the challenge that masturbation will have on you. And if God does not really save you and get you out of that thing before you get into marriage, that's why you get into marriage and all this thing. But I don't want to go there now. I want to first build the story for us to understand my struggle. So first year, I really struggled so much in first year. And I think I eventually just gave up. I like this is life, you know. I would know, of course, you would feel sorry for your mom. I would my mom doesn't know what I'm dealing with. She would still look at you as her innocent son, her innocent boy, and you know, you go to church, but you have this guilt. I had that guilt in me because I would go back to church and I'm like, I'm not the same person, you know. Something has changed, and you know it yourself. You're no longer the same child of God you are, but now you begin to encourage yourself. I remember we used to read articles and you go on Google and say, what are the advantages of masturbation? And then science will tell you, oh, it is good for a man to masturbate. It helps you avoid prostate cancer. When you know, like they give you so many weird lies that comfort you to stay doing something. I was a leader in the scripture union, you know, in my class, and we used to pray. Mondays we had our altar, mass communication. I was part of that, and that's why the devil is really so, I don't know. So I whenever I would go back to pray, I couldn't even pray that I used to pray. You know, like when you know, I think it's the same feeling Adam and Eve maybe had when they had let down God and they knew it. They themselves hid. Nobody told them to hide. Right. So I remember even whenever I would go back to pray, I couldn't pray the way I used to pray. I was so defensive in my spirit at some point. You know, like when you go before God and like, God, just let me be. You know, just let me be. This is going to be my life. I have to enjoy my life as well at some point. And it lasted for a long time. I think up to third year, where I couldn't even. I remember even fasting became hard. Like I couldn't fast anymore. I couldn't. You know, the challenge about masturbation is that you can masturbate. You can be, let's say, in this toilet, and then you go inside and then you find yourself masturbating. You know, you can even be in church. Sometimes you're in the chapel, and you take a break, you go out, and you masturbate in the chapel, in the bathroom, and that thing, it begins to make it. You yourself, you begin to judge yourself. And you say, I'm not right with God, but I have to defend myself. I have to keep. So that's the guilt that I had, that it had overpowered me to the point that I could no longer control myself. I could not stop, even if when you want. I remember this one time was really tough. I had an altar, a small altar in my when we left university and I went outside, not leaving university, when we left the halls of residence and I went outside into my own personal room.
That is year 2.
Year 2. I had like a small prayer altar, like a small thing, and just religious. I had a portrait of Jesus, and when that urge comes on you, you can even masturbate on that same altar.
My God.
When that thing just comes. Because now remember, I have left those boys. They've given me so many of those CDs, so many of those DVDs. I remember they gave me even others which were called Kama Sutra things, teaching you how to have sex and how to position yourself with this girl. And so they gave me a barricade of things. And they even showed me where to go and buy, and where you can find this. And so I had now a stash also. I got a stash. And so you're out, you're alone. Of course, you're involved now in fornication. You have masturbation, you have pornography, and then you have to put on the same holy face to show up and pray. As I told you, our chancellor was the Archbishop of Uganda was our chancellor. Right, Henry Rukorombi, the most amazing man I've ever come across in the Anglican Church. The first one I had praying in tongues. And this man would come Fridays. And sometimes he would visit us on another occasions. My vice chancellor was called Stephen Noel, another American guy, I think American or a very strong preacher. So it's not like we didn't have God within us, like with us. But it was just that I think after, whenever we would leave that place, the demon would just, hold you back. Say, okay, you've done what you did, but now come back to me, And for me, I still put it back to the friends, the friendships that we get into will determine even our entire life at college. The very first people you meet in the very first week at college, many times are going to determine how far
you're going to spend the rest of your time. So you were still telling us about that time you felt like you were in the presence of God where you felt good. So at this point, you felt like something was controlling. It was no longer you.
Yeah, I got to a point where I had lost control of myself.
Of your body, right?
Yeah, and the urge and the desire, because I had watched too much. And the thing about porn is that it gets to a point where you want to watch something better. You get, like what you watched yesterday can no longer work for you tomorrow. You need something more stronger. It's like something, maybe someone who drinks and they tell you, I need something stronger. Yeah.
Wow.
So I got to the point where I was so accustomed, like this can't work.
Right.
I need something more aggressive. I need something that is much more better than what I've seen. So I had got to that point where you have a stash and series of porn that you watch is all into your head, but you still have this quench for more. Yeah. And remember, when you watch, you're watching, and then after watching, you're involving yourself in the masturbation, and then you're also into fornication. But you see, fornication can't even save you there because your head has seen so much. And we forget that the people we see in porn, those guys are on drugs many times.
Yes.
They have, they are making money. No one can live life like that.
You can't do what they're doing.
But because no one tells you that, that is your first encounter. And remember, you're 19. It's your first time to really see this thing. And your whole first year of college, you have been bombarded with this thing. You go into second year, now you're outside, you're into your personal room. Now it is even worse. Because I remember whenever I would go back home for my holidays, I would feel so guilty, even in my mom's house. Like, you feel so guilty. This is not the boy who left home. Yourself.
And we
this
know
is
you,
not me.
We know you to be mommy's boy.
Yeah.
So.
But then you feel sad because you're like, oh man, I've let down this woman.
Right.
I've let down this woman. I've let her down because she has taken all the effort to teach me, to show me the way. There's nothing my mom didn't do to really show me the right way. You get, and so I remember after the first vacation or holiday I took, I got back home. Even going to church that Sunday, I was really, really struggling because I was like, no, this is not the Moses that left home. Like, and the thing about it is, what you're doing is wrong, but then it has overpowered you that you can't stop. That even when you take a small 20-30 minutes break, I remember I still ran back. I had so many websites in my head, that I can't remember them. There's a way God helps you now.
Yeah,
I had
of course.
websites that
Right.
if I wanted to watch this, I knew which one. I knew which one, and it's like someone who wants to smoke his drugs. He knows in 1 minute I can get done with this thing. So I knew if I have 20 minutes, I can go to this website. It's going to be this. So I got so accustomed to it that it felt normal.
So if, as you were doing this, did you try to take it to God in prayer? Did you ever try to pray for it? Did you ever try to expose it, like to tell somebody, hey, I'm struggling with this, or
No.
you did not?
You know, the thing is, it's hard for a man to take an issue to God if they're not willing to let go of that issue. Like the first
so you
step.
still- yeah, I see.
So for me, that was the thing that at first of all, my friends were telling me, you're not the only one. All of us are doing this. And look at us, we are normal. We are okay, you know. So I remember even when I would want to approach it in terms of prayer, like you don't even want to. It's like if you're in fornication, let's talk about fornication. You can't go to God and say, God, I remember, let me tell you this example. I had a girlfriend. I would tell myself, God, if it is not your will for me to engage with this guy, let something happen along that way when she, like, you know, what you're saying doesn't make sense. You're telling God that, okay, maybe do an accident and let this girl be in an accident. She doesn't make it to my house. But she's coming. It's you who called her to come to your house. And you yourself, you know it is wrong. But because you've become so accustomed and comfortable doing it.
Wow, wasn't that amazing? Wasn't that life-changing? I was touched so much, and I hope you were touched as well. Unfortunately, that is all the time we had for tonight. Tune in next time for the next episode, which is going to be more interesting with more insight than this one. So thank you so much for those who have subscribed. Please do not forget to like, share, and comment. Remember, be nice. Be nice in the comment section. But please let us know what you feel about this episode, and let us know how it's touching your life, and let me share a glimpse of what is going to happen next time.
Because I had a girlfriend in high school, but not involving myself sexually with her. I remember I had a dream. I think 3 days after that. In the dream, 3 men walk into my house, my mother's house. Now they began to show me like a million clips. But I was having that thing in my spirit. I must go. I must leave my mother's house. Why am I even still here? What am I doing here? So finally I leave. I don't know how long, a few months, I think. Now this thing comes back. The moment I went into my own place, it was like there was a welcome party that the demons threw. Welcome home.